welcome to another episode of Beyond the Locker Room. I'm your host, Brian Tull. This week, I'm going to have a little discussion to start a bit with the NBA. A few things on my mind about the NBA. I'm going to talk about the Miami Heat and their winning streak, which is now up to 18 games after they've beaten Indiana tonight. It was a bad beating, let's put it that way. I think Miami came in with a lot to prove. They wanted to make sure that no one questioned that they were the beast of the East, and they were on a mission tonight. It was very similar to what you saw in the second half of the Knicks game last week. They were all over the floor, just hounding Indiana every chance they got. I honestly don't see if these two play in a series, down the road at Eastern Conference Finals, how Indiana could score enough points to actually match Miami. Miami's going to play as stingy a defense as they are. And then offensively, Miami's always got like an ace up their sleeve because Wade, LeBron can either get their own shots, and then you throw in Bosch. They have three guys that command heavy double teams. It's going to be difficult for them to be beaten by anybody, especially Indiana, if they can't score enough points. So Miami went in there today with a mission. They were probably looking forward to this game, probably why they kind of slacked off against Orlando in the second half of that game. Okay, the Raptors. Let me just get it off my chest. I usually don't talk much about the local teams unless something really jumps out at me. And I sat down there Friday night, watched the Lakers game. I can't take it anymore. I have to get my Raptors rant on and just get this off my chest once and for all. A few things I want to touch on. Okay, first thing. Let's end the nonsense, folks. Rudy Gay is not a superstar. Rudy Gay, I don't even know if he's a star. He's a very good player. On the Raptors, overall, I was never big on the deal in the first place, but I've come begrudgingly to accept the deal. And in some parts, I think it is a good deal for the Raptors. I think it gives them another scorer, a legitimate guy. Will get a double team, and opens up the floor for a lot of the other players, especially DeRozan. So that's the positive parts about it. The negatives, this is the part I was concerned about. Never mind the salary cap issues with Gay's contract, which is enormous. It's going to get worse in the coming years. But let's just look on the court. I mean, where to start? 7 for 25 on Friday night. It just gets worse and worse each week as he's playing for the Raptors. Teams are now playing him a certain way. And I think, for anyone as a Raptors fan, check out the Bill Simmons podcast, I think from about Monday or Tuesday. He was talking to Zach Lowe about the analytics conference from Boston, the Sloan MIT conference. Check out what they have to say about the Raptors and specifically about Rudy Gay. Fascinating discussion as Simmons mentioned, I guess, a conversation he had with Magic Johnson and Jalen Rose during the games last Sunday, and they're in the green room discussing how good was the deal between Toronto and Memphis, and it would hurt or help Memphis. And it was really fascinating to see how, it could be the same player, but how two different people can view it as a good deal or a bad deal, depending on what your theory of how to determine what a good player is. So, some people would do the old eye test and say, hey, that guy's a really top player. Other people want to dig more into the analytics and more into statistics and give you a stripped down, unadulterated opinion on what they actually think of that player. And it's fascinating to see those two worlds collide, be it in the discussion on the BS report, and even just amongst Raptor fans as well. I've had this discussion with a lot of other fans and friends and discussing this deal. And I think you can see see it work both ways depending on how you want to work the argument. But I think right now there is good and there is bad. But overall, I think there's got to be some changes made as far as the personnel around this team next year when it comes to the bench and some other items. How their philosophy is moving forward when it comes to Rudy Gay, which leads me to my next point. I'll just end it with this: Dwayne Casey needs to go. Honestly. He needs to be, I don't like watching people get fired from their position, but he needs to go. The horrible coaching that I've seen this year, especially in that Lakers game on Friday night. It was malpractice. That's all I gotta say about it. Never mind the fact that JV was sitting on the bench in the fourth quarter as if the coaching staff forgot he still was on the team, and you had Aaron Gray out there playing meaningful minutes against Dwight Howard. So essentially, the Raptors are playing 5 against 4 for the rest of the game as well as in the overtime. Then you throw in the fact that Alan Anderson, I don't know if he has photos on this coaching staff or what. This guy up to a year ago was a journeyman that was getting 10-day contracts from the Raptors just to stay on the team. All of a sudden now, this guy is like Vinnie Johnson from 1989 now, looking to light up. The moment he gets in there, he has the green light to shoot every second. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. I mean, it's to the point where I feel like I want to get sick just watching him play each night. So it's getting that bad, at least for me as a fan. I just sitting there watching him chuck up shots night after night. Doesn't matter who was on the floor. Heck, if Michael Jordan's on the floor with him, he'd still be looking to chuck it up. So I don't know how Dwayne Casey can actually sit there with a straight face, post press conference after press conference talking about how we have, guys have to know their roles on the team and this and that and the next thing and make sure they get good shots. And then he's putting Allen Anderson out there, giving him last second shots as if he's Kobe Bryant. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, that was DeRozan's game as far as I'm concerned, to win or lose. You got to put the ball in his hands and see what happens. You got Rudy Gay shooting 7 for 25. Allen Anderson just chucking shots left, right, and center. And DeRozan not getting a touch, which leads me to my third issue. And that's the use of DeRozan and how he's being used by this team. I think, honestly, he would be he'd be so further along in his career if he didn't have Dwayne Casey as his coach. Because I've watched night after night of him with a rotation of having DeRozan sit on the bench for 8 or 9 minutes in the fourth quarter of games. After, say, DeRozan leaves the third quarter with 16, 17 points, he's sitting down there on the bench getting cold. No one plays better defense than DeRozan than Dwayne Casey. He could ice him better than anybody else can. He's sitting there on the bench. Then he brings him with like 3 minutes left to go in the game. And then afterwards, he's running no plays for him and no touches for him, even though he's the only guy on the team that actually could draw fouls and get the free throw line and get some calls now. It seems like from the referees, but for some reason, hey, we'll put it in Allen Anderson's hands and anyone else's, Amir Johnson's or anyone else's hands, to try to see if we could close out games. It's just a travesty. It's ridiculous. I don't know if Colangelo's staying or not, but I do know that in this case, Casey, if he's the coach next year, it's a wrap. I mean, this team's going nowhere because, I mean, the way he's coached this team, he's played to lose, and how many games we've lost in the fourth quarter or in the last few minutes. At some point, you got to look at the coaching and question what type of execution, what type of plays you're running, what type of substitutions are happening, how you use your timeouts. All these type of things are go into it, and it's just failing grades across the board in this case, I think, for Casey. Nice assistant, wouldn't want him as my coach. Tiger. So Tiger wins today the WGC Championship, Cadillac sponsored, so let me make sure I say that. That's, I think, the 7th time I think he's won this event, and he's now number 2 in the world, or he has been number 2. He's closing in on Rory, and everyone's talking about Tiger, comeback, or Tiger's, not the same player. Well, at least this year, the player I'm seeing right now looks very close to the guy that, before all the injuries, before, all the pancake waitresses and everything like that. He seems like he's that guy again. He looks healthy. He's not walking around with a limp anymore. He's really hitting the ball really straight. He's making sure he's getting it on the green and 2 if he can, and he's really putting well, which was really his what really led him, which is the thing that kind of like failed him last year in a lot of big moments, was his putting, which never had failed him before that. So that's a great sign for all Tiger fans, and I'm happy to see that. So hey, I think he's got a good chance as any. If not, I think he might be the overwhelming favorite going into the Masters. So we'll see how that plays out as well too. And on that note, I think I can call it a day for now, and we'll see what happens next week. NFL drafts coming up, Masters coming up, March Madness. We have a March Madness preview coming up as well too, and see what's going on that end of things with the NCAA. Everyone loves the big dance in March. I'm looking forward to it. Right now, no big winners or big favorites going into it, but I think it's going to be a great tournament as always. So I'll talk to you guys next week.